Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this new episode of the Ravi podcast. Today, our agenda revolves around how bullying has impacted the society as a whole. For this agenda, I'm delighted to have Sir Hamza Irfan, who is the coach of the MUN Society at the City School Raleigh campus. So, sir, how are you?
I'm great, guys. Thank you so much for having me today on the show. I'm really excited to talk about this important topic. How's it been with you guys? How's everything going?
Yeah, we're pretty much fine as well. Could you share something about your MUN journey which we feel like is important for us to know?
I started doing MUNs almost 10 to 11 years ago. I was a speaker in the circuit for about 5 or 6 years, and then over the last 5.5 years, I've been a coach and a chairperson or a committee director. I love MUNs. I think it's really good. All of the kids who come, I'm always really happy to coach them. It's good to see them build and grow and develop over time as well. It's always good to see the ones who have graduated have gone somewhere as well. Yeah. Yes.
So, Sir Hamza, what do you think bullying is?
So I think that bullying is any act that an individual can do to somebody or even a group of people, right? Where you make them uncomfortable or you can make them conscious. It can be physical, you can harm them, it can be verbal, you can be abusive, and not all verbal bullying has to be abusive, right? At times it can just be things that you say which can upset the next person. It can be something, it can be a personal comment about them. It can be something that you say which doesn't, like it rubs them the wrong way. It makes them feel bad. It can be you have different types of bullying as well, right? You've got cyberbullying and you've got psychological bullying as well, right? So if you torment somebody, that could just be some form of weird psychological bullying. I don't know why people would want to do that, but some people do. And you could have cyberbullying as well. So like sending threatening messages to somebody or threatening to, let's say, expose somebody or, like maybe being a snitch, I would say, and then leaking screenshots for something. Like it's still a form of bullying, right? Because you're making the next person or a group of people feel uncomfortable. You could be hounding them on their opinion. You could not be giving them the freedom to speak or to express themselves. You could make them feel diminished in front of society. So I think a lot of these actions, some of which we do end up doing sometimes unknowingly as well, that is what bullying is.
So, do you think in Pakistan teenagers are actually aware of the type of bullying that exist?
So I think that there's two things that we should consider here, right? One is outright bullying, something that we notice, something that we know. Yeah. So you have like, let's say a 16-year old kid and he pushes somebody or he shoves somebody or he hits somebody. We know that's bullying, right? Especially if somebody's younger to him, or we can see that, like physically they may not be matched, or um, that's like a very classical example of bullying, right? But then there's a lot of bullying that I think we don't recognize, right? So something that you could probably see is even smart kids, when they hound on other kids for not being as, let's say, intellectually achieved or academically achieved, that is bullying, right? Because they're still making them feel bad, right? Um, and that's something that I think we don't recognize. It's something that, in society or in schools or even at homes, we look over, right? And other than that, you've got classical examples. Sometimes, girls being mean to other girls. We've all seen that happen in schools.
Yeah.
I've seen cases where kids are so mean to each other that teachers even walk away because they're afraid that the kids are going to be mean to them. So, but that is a form of bullying, right? Because it's making the next person uncomfortable. So I don't think it's just one type, right? I think the classical type that we see, which becomes physical, that's something that you notice. Even with cyberbullying, the expose or like the leaking of chats or whatever, that's something that you see, and you know that that is bullying, right? But then there are other subtle ways of bullying people, right? So if you are somebody who's trying to show that you are academically more superior, or you say something just to make somebody else look like like less intellectual or less knowledge or less research, You could do something which makes them feel inferior. You could comment on something that they have. You can comment on maybe the way that they're walking or they're talking or what they're wearing. These are things that, sometimes we let slip. And those are things which are considered bullying. So, yes, for some part, you have bullying which is recognized. For some part, you have bullying which is absolutely not recognized.
So, in these instances that you have mentioned, what do you think what are the strategies or techniques people can adapt to tackle with the situation at hand?
So, I think there's direct things and then there's more indirect approaches as well, right? Direct approaches, I think those are pretty self-explanatory. If you see somebody picking on somebody or hitting somebody, you stop them, right? I mean, that's our basic humanity, right? Even if our social surrounding makes us want to walk away, or we've been taught, Kecha, if you see something, you should, like, maybe you should say something, or peer pressure makes us be like, okay, we don't want to be a snitch, so we'll get bullied next, let's not say anything. But eventually you do speak up, right? Because that's basic humanity that you are showing over there. And that's a direct approach, right? So if somebody's being mean, you can report them. If somebody's being harassing, you can report them, right? um and that's the thing, like, kids who are bullies can develop into people who are harassing others as well. And in a professional environment, that can be reported as well, right? But indirectly, the question is, are we fulfilling that indirect purpose in society? Because indirectly, you don't want to just stop what's happening. You want to understand why it's happening, right? So, a lot of research and a lot of literature shows that many students or many children and a very high proportion of people who have been abused or bullied or harassed as children tend to grow up to do the same things, because it's just a mindset of the body. It's a reaction which occurs, right? So are we stopping this at the root problem, which is the psychological issue which develops inside of those children? Now, I don't mean psychological issue just like it's like a mental health disease or something, right? But it is a problem which is occurring, right? In fact, there's this really good book that was recommended, and I would recommend to others as well. It's called The Body Keeps Score. So it's about the abuse that all of us face, right? And it's not just limited to people that you have who are actively abused and, like, directly aapko nazar aata hai, right? Or directly you see what's going on. It's towards people who are abused subtly as well. So people who see emotional blackmail or emotional abuse or psychological abuse. Even people, like children who are born in war-torn countries or who are born in households where they have to see a lot of violence, right? They may not experience it, but just seeing it, that can create this image in the mind, can be detrimental to the body and to the mind to an extent that it hurts, right? And then these things are portrayed ahead. So, funny enough, somebody who's been through abuse or who's been through bullying, they have the tendency to project that back onto people. And most people who are now physically bullying others are people who have been physically bullied themselves, usually in an environment which is supposed to be safe, like their household or their classroom or their school, right? And I don't want people to, like, like, go and make fun of them. Okay, oh, you're doing this because you got, like, 'cause that's bullying in itself, right? I want you to understand that, like, it's our job to help these people, right? If somebody is bullying, we should ask them, okay, yes, it is our job to stop them, but it's also our job to ask why they're doing this, right? Humans, we think, right? And we are social beings, right? So we do want to express ourselves by what we have understood. If all we see is violence, and the only way that we will learn to express ourselves is through violence, right? Now that's the issue. You don't know if this person behind that is sad, or they're frustrated, or they're angry. All you see is the violence, right? So you're asking yourself, how should I stop this? But you're not asking yourself, why is this person reacting like this, right? And that is where we are failing as a society, in schools and at homes, right? We need to be more proactive on this, right? Somebody who is even, and this is something that you've seen in a lot of literature and a lot of research as well, is that uh, students who are academically more accomplished may not be, and this is like a stereotype of school, right? You have like kids who are physically very, active and they're sporty, and then they're, picking on these kids who are considered nerds and everything. And then those nerds grow up and they start picking up on those, like sports kids that, oh, we're so much academically more, but that doesn't stop the cycle, right? So that shows that the people who were bullied by those who were physically more capable than them now have, let's say, an intellectual power, and now they're bullying them back. And then those who were bullied because of the intellectual capabilities now feel, okay, now we're physically more capable, so let's bully them back, right? It's this horrible cycle which is going in a reaction, right? So if you are doing something or saying something which can make somebody feel bad, regardless of them having done the same thing, are you really better than them? I don't think that's a question that we really ask ourselves, right?
Like, how do you incorporate anti-bullying strategies in your NA1 coaching?
So one thing that I'm very strict about and that I don't tolerate is that I feel like the entire team is one, and the team goes together, right? So in MUNs, what happens is that even though they do train together, they do go together. The issue is that they get split up into the committees, right? And then they're on their own against a lot of other kids, right? But they forget that at the end of the day, they're still a team, right? If they're winning together, right? If somebody is attacking them, they're being attacked together, right? So it's about a team mindset, and that comes at camp. I don't want the camps or the classrooms to be a place where, they're pitted against each other or they have to prove that they're better than each other. Yes, they train with each other, they practice with each other, they are praised for, doing better than one another. But at the end of the day, something that I constantly try to inculcate with them again is that you're only as good as how well you are able to teach each other and how well everybody else is able to do, right? So if, let's say, I have 6 kids and 5 of them are doing great, if the sixth one is not doing well, the sixth one did not win, then for me, this is in a way a failure on the team, right? They should be supporting that person. At camp, they shouldn't be snubbing that person or saying, Acha, we are better than him or we are better than her, so, we can pull his or her leg and this is how we can become better. Because that, in essence, is bullying, right? You want to take that away, and you want to do that by giving them that social responsibility that this person who is struggling, we need to help them. We don't need to, pound on them at the time that they're struggling. And I think this is something which is commonly seen in our country, that you see somebody who's struggling and you're like, okay, this person's already pitted down, so how much more can we push them? But that's what's wrong, right? You forget that that person is an integral part of the society or the team. If they are down, so are you, right? You can only work and build together when, like, the weakest or the least experienced person is at a level where they're matching you. And then you have to go higher, because you know that, okay, the person who was so weak is now at the same level. Why aren't we above? So it's not about, okay, we'll pull them down to get above. It's actually, we'll pull them up to create a new merit or metric through which we can become better, right? So once that thing is inculcated, I feel like they stop bullying each other. They realize that they have to work together, because they're only valued as much as, that one or two or three people are valued.
Yeah. Have you in your college life or school life experienced bullying, or have you like bullied someone ever?
So, I don't know, I'm not proud of this, but okay, so I have experienced bullying, because I feel like all of us go through that stage at some point in time, right? And I'm not proud of it, but I've definitely bullied a couple of people as well. I think as children, we don't understand things that we're doing wrong because we see it around us, so we assume it's okay. I mean, I guess that's a carefully articulated excuse for saying that, okay, don't blame me. But the truth is that at some point in time, you have to realize what you're doing is wrong, right? But yeah, I've seen bullying. I've seen people who have come up to me and they've said, okay, do this, this, this. Otherwise, XYZ thing will happen. And, you say no, and then there's a clash. And, like, it's always like seniors and they're like, yeah, cha, like, do this, do that. And you're like, no, I don't want to do it. It doesn't make sense and everything. And they're like, okay, we don't like this and everything. And then, like, that is still a form of bullying, right? Because consent is important, right? And whether you are having fun with somebody, like, a sugar laga rahe or whatever, you still need to make sure the other person is comfortable with it, right? And this goes for MUNs as well, right? At MUNs, we have entertainment sessions, but we always try to make sure that whatever thing somebody is going to do, even if they volunteer for it, we ask them again that, are you comfortable, right? Because the consent is important. You don't want to put somebody in a situation, and like I said in the beginning, putting anybody in a situation that makes them uncomfortable is bullying. So even if that person initially seems willing but hasn't formally said yes, that still means that you are bullying them, right? So yeah, that's been on the end of receiving it, been on the end of giving it as well. Um, I think I've been on the end of giving it as well, before and after these instances as well. But after these instances, I think I was a bit more cognizant of the fact that, like maybe this isn't something that should happen. Mostly because it comes about thinking of putting yourself in that person's shoes, right? We often forget that everybody goes through their own life, right? It's not just us. Everybody's seeing different things. They have different problems. They come from different homes. Um, they're struggling with their own issues. Like, I mean, we all love our families, but we all have problems to deal with, either within or without, like inside and outside of them. And then, school and then work and then studies. And it gets a lot sometimes, right? So to put an added pressure on somebody who's not asking for it, that's unfair, right? So you need to stop for 1 second and put yourself in that person's shoes, no matter how bad. I'm not saying everybody's good. Somebody could have just bullied you and you have an opportunity to get back at them, right? But should you take that? I mean, I don't think it's worth it. I think it's a lot of time wasted. I think you can spend that time with people that you love or friends that you like, right? I don't think you'll laugh as much at bullying somebody as you will with your friends doing something stupid, right? It'll probably be more fun. Yeah.
Hmm. A very common approach to spread awareness about bullying is through storytelling. Do you think personal narratives or storytelling truly help exacerbate the bullying in the society?
I mean, so that's an interesting thing, right? I think there's a lot of disagreement on this. I mean, from both sides. I'm not saying that necessarily everybody disagrees on it, but I mean that a lot of people could feel that personal narratives help. I don't think so as much. I think there's a lot more to consider, right? I think that if you are a certain type of person, personal narratives won't help because it's hard for you to understand them unless you relate to them, right? So if you talk about um, things like, like as a guy, if let's say I see girls who are bullying even you guys, right? I don't think I would understand it the same way because I'm not a girl. I won't be able to understand what you are thinking or feeling or going through. And vice versa as well, right? Like if a guy is being bullied, you as girls may not understand the same extent, right? So if you talk to me about your experiences, I don't think it has the same impact. Similarly, if a guy talks to me about the same experiences, I think that there's still certain things that would change the impact, right? Are we living a similar life? Do we come from the same place? Are we even things like do we have the same problems? Are we studying in the same institution? Are we working in the same place, right? Yeah, maybe if I heard that somebody in the work environment, in my work environment, was getting bullied, I would feel uncomfortable because I would think that, okay, I have to face the same thing because I am over here. But do all personal narratives work? I don't really think so. I think there has to be some relationship with you, right? Like, for example, we are brown people, right? If you were to hear some problems that people in the US face, especially like African Americans, I don't think we can relate to it because we don't face the same level of problems. Like I don't think that they would be able to relate to problems that we face when we are, like brown or Pakistani or Muslim people, right? So everybody has their own, and maybe narratives of similar people that we can fully absorb or they can really make us relate to them. Maybe at that time we can understand them, but for the majority, I don't think that's always true.
Agreeable, but taking what you said into consideration, what can schools and colleges do to tackle with the situation to spread awareness among their students?
So I think that's a good question. I think that because schools and colleges are where we spend most of the start of our life. I mean, we have homes, but most of the year we're in school. You get connected to your friends, to your teachers. I think that counseling is important. I think that schools should, and they should consider this, and the government should maybe work on a program where you do have school counselors. So people who do keep a check on the children, they get routine feedbacks from teachers, and I think that as teachers as well, being a teacher itself is a very, very difficult task. And then, like, I think the next thing I'm going to say is going to add on to the responsibility of teachers. And I'll agree that it is a bit unfair because teachers already have to do so much, right? But I think that teachers can keep an eye out, and then they can, if they have a counselor to work with, they can refer these children there, because the counselor can help guide them and talk to them, and maybe, help them figure out some of the issues that they're facing. Maybe, like, control their anger, control their frustration, because these are things, or, like, their trauma is something that when voiced out and when tackled by the right professionals, it can be subdued enough that, they don't react to this, right? So again, the body keeps score. You don't want it to keep score and then take that out on other people, right? So I think that's something that schools can do. I love how at our campus, ever since I've joined, it's always this environment where, if something is wrong, you can always talk to people who are in charge. You can always come to the offices. You can discuss what's bothering you. So, and it's not just about the office as well. Like, talking over here is great, but then you have the mental health counselors as well, right? And it's really important. And it would be good if it's not just, like, one school or one campus. It would be good if other schools and other campuses were also to incorporate these things, right? Because I think that's made a difference. Like, I would say, and when you're in a situation, it's hard to see the change, right? But being in this situation, in this institution, I can say that I've seen a change over the last couple of years, right? I can say that, like, things have changed, and, like, a lot of work is being done. And that's good. That's positive, right? But the concern is that, okay, we're helping these people, but is that enough, right? Because our responsibility doesn't just stop to the people around us. Our responsibility is to society as a whole. So do we have the same facilities and the same environment in other places? So that's something we should think about.
Mhm. What are some techniques that you think can make bullying situations better? And how can we adapt these strategies into different kind of age groups?
Okay, so there's a couple of, I think, talks, and their video seminars as well, which are available online for bullying techniques, right?
Yeah.
So I did get to see a couple of these. I'm sure a lot of teachers have. It's something that teachers know exists in schools, so you want to be able to help out your students, right? But in that, one of the things that they talk to us about is, like, understanding where the bully is coming from, right? So if somebody is saying something to you, right, or they're constantly bullying you, or they're diminishing you, right, you need to understand that these are just words, right? And you give them power if you choose to give them power, right? So when somebody, like, if I say to you that, oh, like, you don't look good today, or something is bad today, right? You can choose to, like, absorb it and then grab onto it, and then, like, think about it, and, like, work through it and then sulk over it. Or you can just be like, or you can realize that, oh, this person is a bully, and I don't really value their opinion. So they can say it, and that's fine. But, like, I'm content and I'm happy with my things, right? I think that's tough because at this young age, everybody goes through insecurities, and it's easy for others to play on them. But having a good support system and a good friends group will have you, like, get through things. I think that's very important for kids of all ages. You should be careful about who you're friends with. You should make sure that your friends make you feel good. Sometimes, you have friends who also say things like this, and then the question is that, are they really your friends? Because they're not really making you feel that good, right? But it's in the weight of the words, right? If you don't give them the weight, then the words won't matter,
Yeah.
right?
Thank you so much, Sir Hamza, for joining us today. It was a pleasure to talk to you about this issue.
All right. Thank you guys for having me.